What's the scariest sound you've ever heard while you were alone at night? Please remember to like, share, comment, subscribe, listen and ask for shoutouts and hype, and enjoy the first snowfall, real snowfall here in New York, or at least on Long Island. And we'll talk to you soon. My dad's house has this back house cabin type thing where I had a futon, a television with a Super Nintendo, and a mini fridge. It was like a little clubhouse for me and my friends. Anyways, when I was a teenager, I started using it as a place for sexy times for me and my girlfriend. One night we're hanging out in the back, it's late at night, and we just finished having sex, and we're just laying on the futon naked and chatting it away, when I hear a loud bang, like an open palm hitting the window, on the window across from us. My first thought is, my mom caught us having sex, I'm screwed. I throw my shorts on and open the door expecting my mom to be there waiting to lecture me, but nothing. I walk around the corner of the back house, where the window is, which, keep in mind, was right next to a fence with a bunch of old wood crap, so just getting close to that window, you'd have to climb over a bunch of stuff, like making a bunch of ruckus. But I look around the corner, and nothing is in my backyard, as empty and quiet as not even my dad's 2 golden retrievers were anywhere to be seen when I whistled for them. So I go walk back in the back house, super freaked out, and lock the door. I lay my lady friend back on the futon with me, and we're just laying there super creeped out, whispering about what it could be. Then again, bang, 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 bang. At this point, we're both silent as hell, scared out of our minds. I grab this stick thing to use as a weapon, and we run from the back house across the backyard of my dad's house. I'm not sure what it was, but I'm pretty sure it was a skinwalker. Not me, but my mother. She used to live in country Australia, about 10 minutes out of a small town on 25-acre forest property all by herself. One night she was woken by a loud bang outside, like someone kicking the door. 30 seconds later, and another bang. Here's where she and I are very different people. She got up and went to find the source of this mysterious bang, then continued once every 30 seconds or so. She left the house and found that the shed door was banging as if someone was trying to break through it from the inside. Again, I did not inherit her courage. She opens the fucking shed door to find a very, very pissed off echinda. A little spiky creature, shorter than my foot, had wandered into the shed in the day and been accidentally locked in, and had decided that the logical way out was to lay siege to the fucking door in the middle of the night. The most vivid thing that happened to me is the crutches. I was about 10 or 12 and asleep in my bed, which was upstairs and across a hallway. I was woken up in the middle of the night by noises downstairs. The house is quite big, and based on the layout of the house, I would have been the only one able to hear it. The other bedrooms are in a newer part of the house. The noises sounded like someone on crutches walking around. It was all wooden floors in the house at the time, and you can't mistake the sound of crutches. Just the sound of them clacking around in the hallway at the bottom of the stairs. I was very scared, since I knew no one was awake in the house. But it got worse. All of a sudden, the crutches just flew up the stairs. I could hear them on the individual steps, but the speed of them was just not possible. It was 2 seconds from downstairs to upstairs and then across the hallway. It wasn't even attempting to be quiet. It just exploded into my room. My door was closed and remained closed. My door was a noisy, creaky yoke, and it never opened, but this thing was in my room and beside my bed. Obviously, while the noise and crutches flew up the stairs and into my room, I'd thrown myself under the blankets and was trying not to breathe with fear. I could feel something in the room. It clicked quickly around to the opposite side of my bed, the inner side, and silence. I never looked, I never heard, but something was there and looking at my bed. I have no idea how long it went on for, but as quickly as it came, it flew back around my bed and through the door, back downstairs, silence in the house. I'm 90% sure I never heard it again. I've actually had quite a few experiences, none as definitive as that. That question just brought back a flood of terrifying memories from many years ago. My buddy Doug and I were camping up in northern Ontario, and we decided to go for a midnight canoe paddle on the lake. The night was warm and pitch black, overcast, and no lights anywhere. The lake was totally still and quiet, so quiet you could hear the smallest sounds made by our movements as our paddles cut through the water. Navigating by flashlight, we paddled out across the lake and went into a little shallow bay. And then we stopped paddling, turned off the light, and just sat there drifting and marveling at total darkness and complete silence of the lake. It was like being in a giant sensory deprivation tank of a lovely warm summer night, and we leaned back into our respective ends of the canoe to take it all in. Suddenly, out of nowhere, an absolutely horrid screeching ripped through the night, putting an end to our little moment of serenity. It was a loud, piercing, blood-curdling screaming of something in total agony and meeting its end. What the f*** is that? I have no idea, but holy shit. We pointed our little flashlights in the direction of the noise, but they were too weak to make out anything. We were close to shore, but it didn't matter. We couldn't see a thing. The screeching continued. Is it a raccoon in a trap, or maybe a skunk, or something being killed by something? I mean, what the f*** is that? I have no idea, but holy f***ing shit. And it went on and on and on, screeching and howling and screaming, blue bloody murder. For it seemed like a very long time. It was probably about 5 or 10 minutes. Eventually, whatever it was died down. Died, that is, or went quiet at least. Its protest diminishing in intensity and frequency as we sat there listening helplessly. What happened after that was even more bizarre. The next thing we heard was the sound of heavy feet moving quickly, snapping twigs and rustling grass as it ran. It seemed to be moving away from the kill scene and moving closer to the lake, i.e. toward us. Then there was a moment of silence just before whatever it was hit the water like a fat kid doing a cannonball off the diving board. Kerking splash. We sat there in total shock, wondering what would happen next, half expecting whatever it was to swim out, capsize the canoe, and devour the pair of us in short order. But that didn't happen. Instead, everything went quiet again. Back to the total peace and quiet it was 10 minutes before the cacophony began. We sat there speculating about what had really happened and what sort of animal or animals were involved. To this day, I have no idea what it was. I was staying at my sister-in-law's house in the middle of nowhere in Georgia. Earlier that night, her kids tell me that there's a dinosaur in the woods and it makes noises at night. Of course, I think nothing of it, as I assume they're just messing with me. Later that night, I'm sleeping in the living room couch with the windows open, and I wake up to what I can only describe as a noise straight out of Jurassic Park, loud as too. Now, being wide awake and apparently the only person in the house who is, I'm sitting perfectly still in the whole thing when I hear it again. This confirms to me that I didn't dream it. Unfortunately, sleep didn't come easy after that. I spent a good hour sitting there trying to figure out what animal could have made that sound. To this day, I still don't know. Best logical guesses I have are that it was some nocturnal bird right near the window, or my sister-in-law's goats went crazy that night. Either way, scared the fuck out of me at the time. Alright, a quick shout out today. I want to say hello to Liquid Marvel and their daughter Miley listening for the videos, and we appreciate it, so thanks for listening. Hey guys. And that's my daughter right back there, Lila. So anyway, this is our yard, and our house. There's my son. Anyway, have a great day, guys. I live in an old secluded house with my cat and my dogs. I get bored from time to time and will sing or whistle for shits and grins. One night I was rummaging through some boxes and whistling random tunes. Fast forward a few hours and I'm sitting on my couch reading, when I hear a faint whistling sound coming from upstairs. I go up to make sure the window and all are shut tight and don't notice anything out of the ordinary. As I reach the bottom of the steps, I very clearly hear someone whistling behind me. I turn and don't see anything, but I'm sure I heard it. I grab a knife from my nightstand and call for my dogs. We all venture back up. After a thorough search yields nothing, I return to my couch and spend the rest of the night jumping at every little sound. Never heard anything again, but I was on edge for the next week or so. lived in a house that used to be a funeral home, and the basement was obviously where the bodies would be prepped. You could tell just from the overall look of it, and doing research on the house years later proved that point to be true. There were lots of graves in the backyard from children who died in the 1800s from an assortment of illnesses. Well, one night, while staying up and playing some Crash Bandicoot, I heard a small child laughing at the top of their lungs, and then run down the hallway. I was home alone, and my sister was visiting a friend on the other side of town. Went downstairs, and nothing. Everything was still locked up. No footprints in the snow, etc. A week goes by, and my sister is sitting downstairs, watching the telly, and mentions seeing a boy wearing very old-style clothes, standing on the stairs, watching her before walking back up and disappearing. We'd also hear coughing from the basement, people walking around, etc. Some of the creepiest were the doorbell ringing after we removed the batteries and ripped out all the wires. Fast forward about 12 years later, and my sister has moved back into the house and tells me she still sees that little boy, but more frequently, and his appearances have been more unnerving. So I'm sitting on the floor in my living room with my best friend at the time. The lights are all off in my house, and we're waiting to get picked up by our friend. It's around 2 a.m., dead silent, and across the hall, in the kitchen, we hear one of the wooden chairs at the kitchen table start to slowly drag across the linoleum ground. I make eye contact with my friend, and his eyes are as wide as I've ever seen anybody's eyes get. My family are all heavy asleep. So I gather up the courage to walk down the hall and flick the kitchen light. One of the dinner table chairs was across the kitchen away from the table. There was no way anybody could have moved it in that direction and then gotten all the way upstairs silently. I still have no idea what moved that chair. 2 years ago, I was in my living room playing Call of Duty at about 1 a.m. when I heard 3 very loud gunshots. I played with the volume very low as my wife and kids were sleeping, so I immediately knew some shit was going down. It had sounded like it came from my backyard, so I didn't know what to do. Then I hear someone jump my fence into my backyard, and I see a shadow walking slowly by my kitchen window. The lights were off in the kitchen, so they didn't see me. I paused and couldn't move or breathe. Next thing I know, he steps, then sprints toward the front yard and out of the front gate. I only live like 2 blocks from the police station, and the next thing I know, cops start surrounding my house. I open my door and tell them what happened, and immediately there's a helicopter searchlight on me. There were several cops in my backyard and in my front yard, so I told them what happened. They wouldn't tell me anything, though. What had happened, which I found out through the news, was that the guy had left the local bar with some younger kids to go to the liquor store behind my house. One thing led to another, and they all started fighting. Some man driving by saw the whole thing and got out of his car to break it up. The guy that was fighting the younger kids ended up stabbing one in the head and then shot the 3 passerby 3 times in the chest, killing him. This all happened directly behind my house. The kids survived and the shooter got away. They found out that the guy who got killed was driving home to Colorado and just stopped in our town trying to find a hotel for the night. I was 17. I had just had my first baby. Literally, it was our 3rd or 4th night home. And my fiancée was working 3rd shift, so I was alone at night with a tiny human in a bad neighborhood. I was a bit freaked out to start with. She slept in our room, no biggie. I liked it that way. And our really big dog slept right outside the bedroom door, so no one was going to get to me or baby, but it was still a little scary. Anyway, having my daughter had done quite the number on me, so I prescribed some decent painkillers, lots of stitches, and I would only take them before bed when I knew she was going to be out for her long stretch at night. It's a little after midnight. I'd taken my pain meds about half an hour before, and I lay down and turn off the bedroom light. And all of a sudden, I hear this growling noise, not the dog, because it wasn't loud enough. It was very low pitches and seemed to go on for 15 seconds or so at a time, then stop, then start back up again a minute or so later. Not a growling sound, but one of those growls that just screams, "Hey, there's a rabies-infested small mammal in your bedroom." I get up, flip the light on, and look under and behind everything in the room. Nada. No noise either. Now that the light is on, I go back to bed. Not 5 minutes later, the noise starts again. Repeat the get up, turn on the light, return to bed routine at least 4 more times. Ended up so freaked out that I took the baby and slept on a blanket next to her on the living room floor all night because I couldn't find the damned noise. Next day, I put her down for a nap. 20 minutes into it, she starts to growl in her sleep. So, yeah, I was freaked out by a 1-week-old infant. A few years ago, I studied in Rome and lived with an older lady. One night, I was awakened by someone whispering my name multiple times. I woke up and felt something like a spider walk down my body as I tried to hit it. I quickly got up and turned on the light. The creepy part was I heard my host mother's door close as I did it. It was almost 4 a.m. To make things creepier, she had a room next to mine that was always locked. When I moved in, she showed me this place. This is my bedroom. This is yours. This is the bath, which was covered in all mirrors. Every wall was a mirror. And the bathtub had no door. So as you showered, you saw every angle of yourself, and so on. But that room, she simply said, "That is my room. It is locked." After that night, I attempted to look for a key everywhere but found none. She was a very mysterious old lady, and it seemed like every time I came out of my room, she happened to be in the hallway. I should probably add that my father practiced witchcraft, so I am very superstitious. Ooh, I have one for this. I was about 11, maybe 12, was laying in bed, kinda late for me at that age, 10 p.m., maybe 11, when I started hearing a beeping noise. At first I didn't think anything of it, probably just a car reversing or something, but then I realized it was coming from inside the house, and the rate of beeps was changing, faster, slower. Think the motion tracker's an alien. I was scared senseless. I started crying. Then shortly after the beeps stopped, shortly after that, my mom came in to ask what was wrong. I explained what I was hearing. She said she didn't hear anything like that. I still have no explanation for it. Another one that was kind of exciting was in the same house, had a friend staying over, was after dark again, and we were just chatting about Star Wars, as Episode 1 had recently come out. We heard about a loud bang from outside, followed by showers of green sparks, not far outside my window, and the power going out. Turns out a power transformer on a power pole very close by had exploded. Another one comes to mind, same house, same friend, different night, again after dark. We heard what sounded like a gunshot, followed by a woman's scream. No idea what it was. Might have just been a neighbor watching a movie, turned up very high, but we both heard it, and it made us quite uneasy. So in Mexico, some homes have their hallways open to the front backyard, mostly in old design now. Back when I was 8 to 10 years old, I can't remember, I went to Mexico to visit my grandparents for the summer. It's a ranch house, so they have horses, cows, turkeys, etc. Every time I go to Mexico, I sleep in this one room that is separated from the main house. Imagine a courtyard, my room on the east side of it, the main house on the west, and running from north to south in the middle is my grandparents' garden, fenced off so that the chicken won't come in and destroy it. So, the entrance to the inside of the house is on the west side of the courtyard, through the main house. It had a heavy wooden double door. One night, before we went to sleep, we usually pray, and that night my cousin did not want to teach me a certain prayer, so I got upset and wished him some bad things, can't remember. Around 3 a.m. we wake up to the sound of a horse walking on cement. I look outside the window that's facing the courtyard and it's all dark. For a second I thought the horse got out of the corral, but the dogs would have been barking. The noise of the hoofs stomping on the cement got closer. All of a sudden, we see 2 red dots moving while the horse is walking, and we jump under covers and start praying. The next morning, I asked my grandparents if they had heard the horse walking sound. They said no, and asked why with an oh shit look in her face. I told her we heard a sound like if a horse was inside the house, walking in the courtyard. Then she says, ah, the legend. According to her and the town, there is a trail in the mountains just a few hundred feet from my grandparents' home that is not very well traveled, because it's the Devil's Trail. He roams about on it with his horse occasionally. So yeah, I'll never forget that. The legend might be false, but the sound of the horse walking inside the house and seeing red light move in the dark, I know it's real. 3 of us saw it. A few months ago, one of my friends invited a few friends and me to have a barbecue and stay overnight at a house he was looking after. The owners were away on holiday. The house looked about 50 years old, but he had a very modern feel to it considering its age. To give you an insight into who was there were about 5 of us in the house. 2 in their own bedroom, 1 was in the master bedroom, and my mate and I were sleeping on the couches in the lounge room. The cat and dog were sleeping in the master bedroom at the time. The couch I was sleeping on was facing the television, and behind it was the kitchen. I woke during the night at about 3:30 a.m. to what sounded like someone bouncing a tennis ball against the wall in the kitchen behind me. At first thought, it's probably just a cat or dog doing something silly, but it went on for about half an hour. I managed to fall back asleep after half an hour, so for all I know, it may have gone on longer. It wasn't until 5 minutes into listening to it that I knew it wasn't a cat or dog. The sound was methodical. It was the exact sound of someone bouncing a tennis ball against a hardwood floor onto a wall and back to themselves, and it just repeated itself over and over. It neither sped up nor slowed down. I was quite literally frozen in place. Being afraid of the dark probably didn't help very much. I eventually fell asleep and woke again at 7 a.m. I asked my friend, who slept 5 feet away from me, if he had heard that sound too, which he said yes. Of course, I explained it to them, and they just ignored me or brushed it off. I was so scared. When I was about 16, my mom was out of state house sitting for her good friend up in North Carolina, so I was just chilling by myself for a few days, wasting my life away on Team Fortress 2. It's about 2:30 a.m. and out of nowhere, the security alarm in my house goes off. If you've never had an alarm system in your house, when they go off, they sound like a fucking siren blaring all over the house, loud enough to usually wake neighbors. So here I am, scared and shitless, because the alarm went off. The alarm company calls and asks if everything is all right, and I tell them no because it just went off. The lady checked to see where the break was, and she said it came from my parents' bedroom window. So I walk over to the bedroom window, and it's cracked open enough to set the alarm off. I grabbed my stepdad's big-ass shillelagh and the biggest knife I could find and sat in my room wide awake until morning. Never found out who it was, but goddamn was it scary. I was camping in the desert with my boyfriend. This was the first time we had ever taken LSD, and the evening was a blast. I literally let the fiery entrance engulf me under the beautiful desert diamonds in the sky. It was a fantastic night that opened my mind in ways I didn't know possible. Our camp was a tarp, hanging between some boulders and over my truck, and we simply put blankets on the ground to sleep on. We eventually retired to this camp around 2 a.m. About 2 hours later, I wake up to what sounds like children screaming, being murdered, not 50 yards away from our camp. It was loud enough to make my bones shake. The sound continues for a solid 5 minutes, but I can't tell if the sound is in my mind or not. My boyfriend never wakes, making me question even more if it's a product of hallucinogenic drugs, though I have to note that he can be a heavy sleeper. The sound eventually fades away, but I never went back to sleep after that. I had a sleepover when I was around 10 years old. We watched the movie What Lies Beneath, back when it was a new release. It was a big 3-story house that always felt empty or creepy because it was just my friend who lived there with his 2 grandparents. Halfway through the movie, my friend paused the tape to go get himself a glass of water. He didn't finish the glass of water and left it on his kitchen counter, which was an island counter in the middle of the kitchen. After the movie ended, we were both terrified and started watching cartoons in our sleeping bags to try to get the movie out of our heads. After 10 minutes of us trying to sleep, we heard a loud crash, the sound of glass smashing against the floor. Of course, we both just hid in our sleeping bags for 5 minutes before getting the courage to talk about what happened. My friend claimed his cat must have knocked his glass of water off the counter. After hearing that, we feel a lot better. Turn the lights on in the kitchen to go clean it up. I and my friend walk into the kitchen just to find his glass of water totally missing. We looked all around the counter to see where the glass could have fallen, and there was nothing. No glass, no water puddles. The glass was just completely gone. My friend then realized his cat, which was an outdoor cat, was let out the night before, so he was outside somewhere, and that's when it really sunk in that something wasn't right. Needless to say, I instantly called my parents, and they came to pick me up from that sleepover.